For the third section of this video for the auto to manual swap, we're going to be installing this tonneau cover to keep the outside elements from the cabin of the car, whether it be exhaust or heat coming from the transmission and engine. So what we do here is we have to trim out this panel, this factory panel. And the reason we have to do that is the auto tunnel, so this actual factory panel here, actually sits about 1 inch lower than the factory manual tunnel. So when you try to put a manual transmission in here, it hits right here. So we're going to trim out a square shape up here, and I have a template that I'll show you how to do that. But before we do that trimming, the first thing you want to do is take a towel and put it over the interior of the car to protect it. And the other thing you want to do is make sure you get all the wiring up and out of the way, because we're going to be coming through here from the bottom of the car with a cutoff wheel on an angle grinder to cut that shape out. So you want to get this all covered up and protected really well to keep all that shaven metal from flying through the car and into the interior. So cover it up like this. We're going to get to trimming next. This is the template to cut out the automatic tunnel that you can find right on my website. That is under the product for the actual tunnel cover piece. So this template is located there. And what you want to do after you print it out, you want to verify that this measurement is exactly right, so that you make sure your printer did not scale this differently, so that you don't cut out the template the wrong size. So what you want to do is measure where that line is and make sure it is 90 millimeters, which you can see that is right. And if you don't have a metric scale, you can go 3.5 inches is what it should be roughly. So now I'm going to cut this out with a pair of scissors, and we're going to put it up under the car so you can see where to cut it out. So now we're going to take the template, and you see it says this side up. So that side is going to be the top. You're not going to see that text when you go to put it up in the car. So put it up like this way, and you can see here now how it fits. And you can see where that OEM hole little template guy is. You can kind of see how it's lining up with the OEM hole that's right there. So now I'm just gonna trace around this with a white paint marker or a white grease marker, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut this with a cutoff wheel. This is what I'm gonna be using to cut this out, which is just a cutoff wheel, and I took the shield off. I know it's dangerous, but it makes it a lot easier to get up into this tight space. So you'll notice when you go to cut here, on the driver's side, on a left-hand drive car, you're actually gonna go right through the center of that bolt hole. On the other side, you're gonna stay to the inside of that. My line is coming in through here. So that's what you should end up with once we're cut. I'm gonna go ahead and make this cut for the bottom, and then I'm gonna show you you're gonna need to trim a little bit from the top as well. Now, if you take your time and go nice and slow, you'll see how this turns out. It actually just fell out on its own for me. And I have nice square corners, so I didn't make a big mess out of the car. But what you will notice there is that the bracket for the dash here is still in place. And that tunnel cover actually you want it to sit on the top edge of this lip. So we gotta notch this part out and notch this part out a little bit so that tunnel cover can slide forward of this hole. So I'm gonna go into the car and cut this out next. Now I'm back in the car here, and you can see here I had this towel over to protect. One thing you're gonna wanna be careful of on this cut, and it's a little bit more of a stressful cut, you just wanna be careful you don't get into any of this wiring, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna notch this right here on an angle down. So I'll make the cut and then I'll show you because it's just gonna be too hard to kind of explain it through words, but we're gonna try to angle this down and then go straight in as well. So just be very careful with this, because you're gonna be, working around wiring and around interior pieces. So yes, this is probably one of the more difficult parts. Okay, so now you can see here I notched out the dash bracket, and to do that you have to be extremely careful. So I came in flat here on the blade this way, came in flat, cut the bottom, and then I turned this upside down, and make sure you're wearing protection for your eyes, but you need to come down in here through like this and cut that into like a triangle. So you can see there I took out like a triangle shape, and I did that on both sides. You can see there. And what that does is that gives us a nice smooth lip around here where we can get the tunnel cover on top, and then get some seam sealer around there to make a nice good seal surface. And then what we're going to do is the tunnel cover is going to use these 2 factory bolts, this factory bolt, and then this one is eliminated, so you can do a self-tapper down through here. I put a tab on there if you want to do that, but it's really not that necessary. If you use seam sealer around this the whole way and 3 bolts, it's not going anywhere. Here you can see the tunnel cover in place where it's going to be in its final resting spot. And you can see the bolt holes lining up back here. And then there is the bolt hole underneath that you have to get to. So this is going to be it. I'm going to go ahead and start the 2 bolts in here and start the bolt in the bottom. Then I'll come back, tighten all the bolts up, and then we'll put seam sealer on from the underside. Okay, so here you can see the tunnel cover installed. And the last step after you tighten down all 3 of the bolts is to use some seam sealer like I have here. You can get this at any AutoZone. It's in the body work section. Just take some of this and apply it using your finger. I usually put a glove on, and you just go around the whole edge all the way around, and that'll keep it all sealed up from the body line to body line. All right, so you can see here now I have the seam sealer all applied and put in all the way around here. And what I usually do here is I let this set up for a couple hours, let it dry, and then I'll just come up here and touch it up with a little bit of satin black or flat black paint just to make it look good. But that's it as far as the tunnel conversion goes. So now we're going to move on to the actual transmission swap in the next part of the video.